about your service or anything about the school, or you can honor Donna Cherry.
All right.
That's Celeste Lopez. Oh, is this headlight? Yeah, she called today. As a matter of fact, I have an appointment with her on Wednesday of this week, tomorrow, as a matter of fact, headlights. Thank you. Yes, Celeste Lopez.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Crystal. Thank you for, no.
All right.
All right, we're going to get started here. Good evening, everyone. I would like to call the regular meeting to order and announce that the board met in closed session and that the following action was taken. On item number 4, the board met and unanimously approved by affirmative votes of everyone present the appointment of the following administrators: Janice Bush, Vice Principal, .5 for Case and .5 for Franklin Elementary. Susan Landon, Vice Principal at Elliott Ranch Elementary. And last, Carol Falter, Vice Principal at Sheldon High School. I would also like to announce that tonight's meeting is being video recorded and will be available on the district's YouTube channel. I would like to announce that the blue cards are available at the table just outside of the boardroom for anyone who wishes to address the board. If you wish to address the board, please complete a card and hand it to the staff member at the table to my right. Please be sure to complete the card indicating whether the matter you wish to address is on the agenda or not on the agenda. If the matter is on the agenda, we will assume you wish to speak when it comes time to address that item on the agenda, and we will hold your card until that time. At this time, I would like to call forward Mr. Wesley Riley, parent volunteer at Irene B. West Elementary School, and I will turn it over to my colleague, Ms. Crystal Martinez-Aleri, who will read some fabulous things about Mr. Riley to lead us in the pledge. Ms. Martinez-Aleri.
We also have the principal, Mrs. Murphy, and Vice Principal Celeste Lopez joining us as well. So thank you. So tonight, Irene B. West Elementary School is honored to recognize Mr. Wesley Riley, father of fifth grader Sita Riley, as our education partner. Mr. Riley's contributions to our school are endless. He is our chairperson for our school site council committee, member of Family Fun Nights, a one-man team for selling Irene B. West spiritware. He's a volunteer for fundraisers and so much more. On one occasion, the rest of the team did not show, and Mr. Riley stayed and counted $21,000 alone of fundraiser money. This included lots of coins. Mr. Riley's most important contribution is that students know he cares. There is no doubt that he puts his conviction about his student safety into action. Tuesdays through Fridays, you will find him at our crosswalk wearing a 4 feet by 5 foot stop sign and escorting children across the street and giving a high five for every student who crosses the street. He has no problem using his recess voice to redirect adults who are not driving safely. Mr. Riley's most important contribution is his presence. He has attended every school site event since his daughter started Irene B. West, and he doesn't just come and enjoy the festivities, he always becomes a part of whatever is going on. He is a role model to other parents on what it means to be an engaged parent. He has a mantra, get to school and help the kids and support the teachers. And everyone knows he means it. He is respected by the West families and greatly appreciated by his principal and vice principal. We don't know what they would do without Mr. Riley. Thank you. Let's give him a round of applause.
Let's rise for the pledge of allegiance to the flag of our country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Riley, would you like to say a few words?
I just wish we had more parents doing some of the stuff that I do. I mean, I don't mind doing it by myself because it's fun. But I just want parents to be more aware of the children,
That's right.
especially in the morning time. A lot of parents drop the kids off, but they drive very safe to the school. And as soon as they let their kids out the door, they're just driving like maniacs. And I'm there with the stop sign to jump in front of the car to tell them, hey, stop.
Right.
So I just want more parents to be aware of, our children's safety.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
We have a gift for you and a certificate from the citizen. And we'll have you get together there for a photo. All right, how about another round of applause for Mr. Riley? Thank you so much. All right, next up and back in action here, our high school student representative report, something we all look forward to during the school year, of hearing from our students of what's happening and what's to come. So first up, we have Elk Grove High School.
Good evening, President Sting Allen, members of the board, Superintendent Hoffman, and Ms. Avalos. My name is Mallory Taylor, and I'm the senior school board representative.
And my name is Cecily Trejo, and I am the junior school board representative. And we are proud to report on behalf of Elk Grove High School. Although school did not start until August 11th, Elk Grove High School was hopping all summer long. Link Crew was very successful with a huge turnout. The class of 2020 was invited to Be Heard, HERD, so they learned about honor, effort, respect, and determination. We clued them into our proud traditions and welcomed them to the Herd family with lots of fun activities while they got to know their junior or senior class mentors. Everyone loved the Aladdin theme because you ain't never had a friend like me. Along the way, we helped them get more comfortable on campus. Herd Roundup happened before school started as well. This is a time where students and parents can get class t-shirts, take school pictures, receive their ID cards, pick up their schedules, and volunteer for class activities such as fluffs. This year, we hosted over 1,200 students. Seeing everyone gets us all excited about the coming year. Our first Friday back was rally time, and of course, the Welcome Back rally was off the hook. We had great performances and hilarious games involving balloons and a twist on the old shoe game that got tons of kids involved. We also had our very first dance of the school year. The theme was Light Up the Night, and the quad was lit with energy, enthusiasm, and glow sticks. As always, we are super grateful to all the teacher and parent chaperones who make such events possible. Seniors have already had an active year. They began the first day of school with sunrise in the stadium. They came together over the love of donuts, bonded as a class, then stopped to sign their mural as they entered the campus together, taking their place as our campus leaders and role models. Another exciting event for our seniors was the barbecue. They began the morning together in the gym for some inspiration from our own Dan Newton, who always reminds us to be in the moment and take time to be kind. Afterward, it was the march out to Elk Grove Park, where the classes were greeted by music, fun inflatables, perfect ag tri-tip, volleyball nets, and of course the annual lip sync finale. The weather was perfect and it was just a great day.
Last week, we hosted our first blood drive of the year, and what a huge success with 78 pints of blood donated. We are proud that our students step up to contribute from the heart. Of course, we cannot do this without the significant support of our wrestling team, who literally make a space for us, and our hardworking custodial staff, who do so much of the heavy lifting needed to make it happen. Tuesday, August 30th, was Club Rush. We are proud to report our students on campus have about 20 clubs to choose from. Included are perennials such as Key, Cyber Patriot, BSU, GSA, French, Japanese, Unity Herd, and Christian Club. New interests such as the Space Rocketry, Students for Change, Future Teachers, Rotary Interact, and Sign Language clubs were added, just to name a few. In sports, cross country, the women's golf, tennis, and volleyball teams are all off and running. We had our first football games last week, and that went very well for the Herd teams. The season looks bright for Herd sports, and we invite you to join us in these great community events. When you come onto campus next time, we hope you enjoy the new fence decor that welcomes all of our guests to the home of the Thundering Herd. We're all excited for fall homecoming. Our theme this year is amusement parks. We can't wait to show off our floats and school spirit in the annual parade on Friday, October 21st, starting at 1 p.m., followed by the game that evening. We invite all of our Herd alumni to come home for both the parade and the game. The TDA Academy hosted a movie study night last week to help their students connect and succeed, and our ag program is teaming up with the Link Crew to provide a Frosh tailgate event this Thursday to help the class of 2020 get their Herd pride on. We'll teach them the cheers and chants, add a little face paint, eat too many hot dogs, and remind everyone that real Herd pride shines best in good sportsmanship. Afterward, we head to the Fresh football game to show it off. Saturday, August 27th, we had our first of 4 Herd Pride days, where students come to school on a Saturday to help tidy up around campus. We want everyone coming to our school to see that we care by the way we take care. It helps again that donuts are involved. This concludes the EGHS School Board report. As always, we welcome you to the many activities and events that make Elk Grove High School a beacon to the community. Thank you.
Excellent report. And next up, we have Valley High School.
It still moves, right? Okay. Okay. Just had to make sure. We can move it. Good evening, President Sing Allen, members of the board, Superintendent Hoffman, and Ms. Avalos. It is an honor to be here tonight on behalf of Valley High School. I am Paul Martinez, a senior.
And I am Leonel Solorio, a senior as well.
First off, we want to briefly highlight what occurred at Valley last year. We set off with the mindset of encouraging everyone on campus to be Viking strong, and we were blown away by the response and all of your support. And for that, we appreciate that, and we want to give each and every one of you one of our lanyards that we have. Leo, if you will let him, we'll pass out one to each and every one of you. I'm going to continue giving my speech if you don't mind. Our teachers and faculty brought their A game with enormous amounts of school spirit and encouragement. But ultimately, it was our students that sailed to the top with their A+ game. Our class of 2016 ended the year with 11 Elk Grove Regional Scholarship recipients, and 21 seniors were also honored to receive the Silver Viking Award, Valley's highest award, for showing outstanding, well-rounded leadership throughout their 4 years on and off campus. Oh, and not to brag, but they collectively earned over $1 million worth of scholarships and grants to pay for their fall semesters in college. Shout out to Jasmine Stevens, who has begun her full ride journey at Harvard University. We are proud to see our class of 2016 off on their new journey and have no doubts they will continue to be Viking strong. Along with the 2016 alumni, we also sent another special Viking on a new journey, Principal Miss Bowler. Although we are sad to see her go, we are even more excited to welcome our new principal, Mr. Richard Gutierrez, right here in the back. And 13 new teachers will also be indoctrinated into our Viking family. Together, we continue to reach new heights and uncharted seas.
Okay, so with that being said, let's talk about what we've been up to lately. Valley started off the school year strong with our freshman orientation and barbecue. A whopping 70% of our incoming freshmen, the biggest class on campus, now dominating our seniors, attended. That is more than a 20% increase compared to last year's attendance. That's great, but I'm just trying to figure out how we're going to fit in the rallies, in the bleachers for rallies. We ended the orientation off with a barbecue for our students, complete with the DJ. Our senior sunrise was also a hit, as many of our seniors miraculously dragged themselves out of bed at 6 in the morning on a Monday. It was the donuts. We also created a time capsule for our students to deposit certain goals they aim to accomplish to be open at a later time in the school year. Yesterday, Valley's marching band, football team, baseball team, Health Tech Academy, and principal attended the Live Well Valley High Community Walk, Parade, and Fair. With free food, free entertainment, and a wide variety of booths to attend, the community definitely seemed to enjoy it.
And it also was asked to be part of a corporation, so I think that's big too. But moving on, September is a packed month for Valley. Currently, we are preparing for our first rally of the year, the Fall Sports Rally, and we are also looking forward to our annual Club Rush, in which student clubs such as Key Club, Mad LOL, and Go Green will try to rally members for the new year. More exciting, Valley is gearing up for Powder Puff. Undoubtedly, the uncoordinated guy cheerleaders will have everyone laughing so hard that their abs will start to hurt. On the 28th, our junior team will face off against the reigning senior champs. We wish the juniors all luck because they're really going to need it. We'll cap off the month with our Disney Through the Villain's Eyes themed homecoming rally, parade, dance, and float, along with our newly annual ILS homecoming dance, which was extremely successful last year.
Valley will continue to make waves and be Viking strong. We look forward to returning on December 13th to catch you all up on our fall sports, academic Block V, and our very successful Improve Your Tomorrow program.
Thank you.
Great job. Great job. At this time, I will recognize our fabulous principals. Principal Kathy Guy from Elk Grove High School. And Mr. Richard Gutierrez, as I heard that for pronunciation, back there. Our new principal for Valley High School. Thank you for all of your hard work, and students, you may be dismissed so you can go plan and do some homework. All right. And there go my students. All right, next up we have our Sheldon softball team and coach recognition. I'd like to call on Mr. Rod Edmiston, and to assist in the recognition, Mr. Fortuna.
Good evening. President Singh Allen, members of the school board, Superintendent Hoffman, Ms. Avalos. Tonight I am honored to introduce you a very special team, the 2016 Sheldon High School softball team. Max Preps, America's source for high school sports, named them the 2016 California Large Schools Team of the Year. Sheldon won the Sac Joaquin Section Division I championship with a 2-1 win over Tracy. The Huskies batted .405 as a team, scoring 278 runs. After losing 6-5 in 10 innings to Del Campo on March 22nd, the Huskies went on a 25-game winning streak and allowed just 40 runs while averaging 9 runs per game. In their 5 playoff games, the Huskies outscored their opponents 36-5 and recorded 3 shutouts. Max Preps also named Coach Mary Jo Truesdale as the 2016 California Large School Coach of the Year. Coach Truesdale guided the Huskies to a 30-2 season and the Sac Joaquin section Division I title, Sheldon's second straight section title. Under Coach Truesdale's leadership, Sheldon has won 7 section titles in the last 14 years. With that, it is my honor to introduce to you Max Prep's 2016 California Large School and Coach of the Year, Mary Jo Truesdale.
The board is asked to recognize Sheldon High School softball team for winning the 2016 Max Preps California Large Schools Team of the Year. Not all of the players were able to make it tonight. Some have graduated and gone on to college, and some are at practice tonight, and their coaches would not allow them to leave. Understandably so. But tonight, we are very happy to have with us Maddie Ayers, Sarah Brown, Macy Fines, Talia Miles, Shay Moreno, Grace Owen, and now at Sac State, Jaciana Vasquez. And Coach John Mendonca. Thank you for your support.
I'd also like to recognize Principal of Sheldon High School, Paula Duncan.
Parents, feel free to come as close as you like.
Congratulations, girls. Thank you.
Thank you. Great job. All right, we do not have any student expulsion recommendations. We do have one. We're on to public comment. I have one blue card submitted, so I would like to call forward Davina Mariscal. Yes, please, come forward. And if I can have you just restate your name for the record, and then to let you know you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
My name is Davina Mariscal. Do I go? Okay, so I wanted to address the hygienic safety for my children. I've just moved to Sacramento. And being at this school for about 2.5 weeks, my daughter has developed head lice twice in 1 week. The urgency to get the notice out to the parents to notify them of this issue was 4 days after that my daughter had got it. And within that time frame, she had got it twice. I don't feel the enforcement of the rules and the policies that are there at that school are taken seriously, and I think something needs to be done about it.
All right, I will invite you to have a conversation with Ms. Donna Cherry
Okay.
to help address those issues.
Okay, great.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention. All right, moving on, we have, as you can see on the agenda, we've moved consent agenda earlier forward, so I will go ahead to the consent agenda, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Forcino.
Yes, I move approval of the consent agenda, items 1 through 16.
All right, we have a motion to approve consent agenda items 1 through 16 from Mr. Fortuna.
I'll second.
Second from Ms. Titus Espinosa. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All right, very good. We do not have an LCAP update this evening, nor do we have a budget update or facilities update. So I will go on to bargaining units and invite any bargaining unit wishing to address the board. Seeing none, we will move on to our reports. None? Yes, all right. Safety and Security Division update. I'd like to call on Mr. Joe Aroso.
Good evening, President Singh Allen, board members, Superintendent Hoffman, Ms. Avalos. It is my pleasure to be here tonight to give you an update on the changes and operations of the Division of Safety and Security since last November when it was implemented. Tonight, Ms. Pinkerton will also be working with me tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about our communications protocol update. Okay. I know the feeling. Okay, so tonight, some of the things we'd like to cover is take a quick review of our jurisdictional description, the changes in the delivery model of safety and security within the district, our community outreach efforts, process revision and training within the division, things that we've changed and modified, quick budget update, and then our new communications protocols that we've put in place. The goals and priorities of the division is to ensure the safety and security of everyone on our property all the time. That's kind of the short version of it. Not only do we have our normal day-to-day school operations, but we also have after-school operations, people using our facilities quite a bit. And so we're looking to provide full-service law enforcement and security around the clock. When you look at our jurisdiction, we've all seen this map before, but there's a few things that I've added in. In addition to our students and employees, we also have 220 vehicles that are very instrumental and critical to our ongoing operations. And the specific and most, probably the most prominent examples are school bus fleet. The 65 school sites, 4 sports sites, and now the 2 elementary school sites that are building. If you took the Elk Grove Unified School District and put it in the context of a city within California, of the 482 cities in California, we'd rank about 98th in size. If we continue to look at our projected growth within a 10 to 15 year window, we're probably going to be in the top 50 in size. When you look at our geographical footprint, the size of our district in general, we're already 49th largest. We'd be the 49th largest city in geographical area. So it is a much larger undertaking than I think we recognized years ago, and it is a much bigger and broader area of responsibility. And some of the sites, our outlying sites, are quite a ways away from our core support areas, and so we've recently started to look at the dynamics of how we're going to interact with those schools and do that. But it is a huge geographic footprint in a large area when you're talking about providing safety and security services. Here's another map of the municipal boundaries, and now we're looking at it in terms of our jurisdiction. By far our largest jurisdiction geographically is the Sacramento County, in which we have 20 schools. The second largest is Elk Grove with 33, then Sacramento City with 11, and Rancho Cordova with 1. And for all intents and purposes, the Rancho Cordova Police Department and the county They're basically the same agency, but in terms of interacting, we do have another political subdivision up there that we want to make sure we account for and take their concerns into the area. But this is, as we begin to grow, we're going to see this start to move a lot more to the north, and so it'll involve those areas to a greater degree. When we look at who we serve within the district internally, of course, the Board of Education, the Superintendent's Cabinet, and all the divisions within that, our employees and our partner agencies, and I'm talking about ASME and EGEA, a lot of those groups, and of course our student and staff. Externally, we recognize that they're parent and guardians, the media. We are one of the more high-profile agencies in the county. As we saw last year, towards the end of the year, some of the incidents we had were very well publicized. And Zanti will talk a little bit more on that. And in the community in general, a lot of the things that we've seen and done over the past 10 months have been really community-centric and requests from the community for us to become more involved in there. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. The new service delivery model that we've implemented and designed, by law in the state of California, the authority for all of our operations are vested in the superintendent. From him, in this case, we have the ability to conduct our operations. We've broken the division down into 4 areas of interest. The first one is support services. School security specialist supervisor oversees that and basically oversees dispatch operations, communications, and what I mean by that is we're now responsible for the communication system for the district, all the radios, maintenance, repair, replacement, vehicle management within the division, equipment, safety equipment, uniforms, those types of things, all of our training and all of purchasing. We've now gotten most of that aligned to where we have a pretty good handle on it, and that's being managed by that division. Safety and Security Services is overseen by the Coordinator of Safety Services. Right now we have one school security specialist in that, and then all of our new, existing and new school security specialists will be in that, and I'll break that down in a minute. Probation Services, the probation department approached us last year about installing probation officers in 2 of our schools. They liked it so much they brought in a 3rd, and now we're talking about a 4th and a 5th. They found that their violation rate, which is reviolation rate, which are students that are violated on their probation, has dropped by 50% in those areas in those schools. And they're also doing it in Sac City right now and looking at some other ones. But they are very much interested in bringing in additional officers because they're finding that it's very proactive and it's very beneficial. Police services, under the direction of a Sacramento County Sheriff's Department lieutenant, and all of our school resources and patrol officers are housed within that particular house. When we look at personnel, right now we have 1 Sacramento County Sheriff's Department lieutenant, 10 Sacramento County Sheriff's Department SROs. Of that 10, half a position is designated as our SARB officer. We have 3 Sacramento County probation officers, 1 at Franklin, 1 at Jackman, and 1 at Sheldon. And as I said, we're looking at 4th and 5th. Normally during the day, we'll have anywhere from 1 to 3 off-duty Sacramento County Sheriff's officers working patrol. What we're using them for is if an SRO gets pulled off their site, we have somebody to backfill. But these are also officers we'll use to handle the stranger dangers or things happening in the area. We've just found that there's a lot more going on. Although the school resource officer is responsible for the entire feeder pattern from the elementary schools and middle schools on up to high school, we found, especially with some of our elementary schools, they just require a lot more services that our school security specialists can't handle, and so we're using those officers to offset that and make sure that we're getting everything covered. Swing shift and graveyards, in the same premise, we have anywhere from 1 to 2 officers working pretty much in the late afternoons and overnight into the mornings. They're more geared towards property protection, vandalism, those types of things. but they've quite often been used on some issues that we'll talk about in a bit in terms of family crisis or students needing assistance. Coordinator of Safety Services, we have one. He oversees all the safety services. 2 security specialist supervisors, and we now, well, as of the 12th, we'll have 8 security specialist 2s. One of them is designated for duty at the Franklin Library, so we'll have 7. We have one that's in the phase 3, the final phase of his training, and will be, actually he soloed today for the first time. He'll be going on, and on the 12th we'll have 3 new security specialists that will begin training, and 1 retired SSD deputy who was also was a camp supervisor at Elk Grove, and he'll be coming over, but he's basically ready to go at this point. The idea is eventually to have enough school security specialists to assign 1 to each of the feeder patterns. And their primary role would be to not only assist the SRO, but to work with the elementary schools primarily with their types of issues that they're seeing, court interpretations, you know, somebody showing up who shouldn't be there, traffic, those types of things. So to do the work that's just not raises to the level of having a sworn officer go. And but the idea is to have a lot more contact at the middle schools that do not currently are not attached to a high school and the elementary schools. I think we've made a lot of headway towards the service to the elementary schools at this point, but we still have some work to do in that area. The things we're looking for that have been our focus in our new development of our plan is expanded flexibility and deployment. We've moved away from the set piece. You work at that site, you don't do anything else other than that site, and we're looking at more of applying the resource to the problem. And when something may happen in a school, we're looking at bringing as much of our resources into it as we can. And I'll talk a little bit more about it in a minute with Protect the Site. We're also moved to a proactive intelligence-based policing. We're working to develop any kind of intelligence we can to really get ahead of the problems and address them. Towards the tail end of last year, we kind of saw that to fruition with some of our students who were exhibiting some stress and maybe made some comments on the social media. We were able to interject ourselves and get them some help, but we also were able to take care of some people that were make some threats and that type of thing. So we're found that it's working in our favor. The SROs are really working hard to develop relationships with the students on the sites and get them to start to interact with us. We're also looking at a fully integrated model to assure campus safety. That's we're looking at the integration eventually of the campus supervisors into the model, along with the school security specialists and the SROs, to provide within their realm of responsibility an integrated and seamless campus safety model. We've moved to a protect the site first model. Before, if there was a problem in an area, everybody ran to the problem, and the school was kind of left to their own devices. And the normal recourse was locked down. We changed that at the end of last year. We're now sending our resources to the school. We're building perimeters around schools and letting the schools continue their operations, and we're letting the other folks in law enforcement take care of the problems in the community. That seemed to have worked really well, and that's at this point, that's a model we'll follow. We're going to try and keep the site functioning as trouble-free as we can. At this point, we have not had an incident where we just didn't have the resources to be able to do that. We're right in the middle of a long-term needs assessment. The first phase of it is complete. Met with and talked with a lot of school-based law enforcement administrators throughout the country. 5 of them from California are major school districts. And we were really looking at the first part of the what. What is it we need to do? What is it that we're going to see? What types of issues are schools seeing? What types of issues are students seeing? We spent a lot of time and focus on the transition grades through middle school, and that question came to mind just by our own experience. So I think we have a pretty good idea at this point what the issues are, what the concerns are that we're going to see. The second phase is we're going to begin to look at what our long-term needs are going to be in probably a 5-year window, 10-year window, 15-year window, and begin to develop a plan to address that. What our exact deployment model will be, what our personnel makeup will be, and how we plan to address those issues. But I'm a lot more confident now than I was 10 months ago that we know what our needs are as far as our school site community, but also our support side community, our buses, our facilities. All of those have kind of come to the forefront as we develop information and information we're getting from some of our partner agencies at the state and federal level. So we'll continue to work on that, and hopefully sometime soon we'll be able to make a recommendation. Site support. When we look at site support, from our eyes, we're looking at high school, middle school, elementary schools, support sites, and the fleet. That's how I would break it down into the major groups. At the high schools, we currently have SROs assigned at all high schools. In addition to that, they have their own campus supervisor staffs to work there. The middle schools, with the exceptions of the ones that are attached to high schools, so we're talking about the ones that are off by their own, they do not have an SRO immediately available, but the SRO from the feeder pattern high school does oversee that and will respond to those calls. In addition, we have the patrol units that can respond, but they also have a couple of campus supervisors on site. The elementary schools, one of the first things we did was we integrated them into the system. The school resource officers oversee the elementary schools in their feeder pattern for any kind of crime-related issues or law enforcement-related issues. We now have the school security specialists that are in constant contact with the elementary schools, working on issues with them, and so we have that in place. The support sites, specifically the bus yard, food services, technology services, and this building, to one degree or another, have some level of vulnerability that we're addressing, and we're trying to do it in a thoughtful way that we really don't want to turn any of our sites into an armed camp. But we do recognize the need for security there at each level. When you look at the resource we have just in our bus yard parked overnight, that if you really wanted to cause some damage to Elk Grove Unified School District, that would probably be a good way to do it. And so we put plans together for their safety and security. We're constantly monitoring them. We're doing some different things with the communication system to make sure that we have the fleet well in hand. When we're talking about site usage, it really kind of falls into 4 categories: athletics, non-athletics, fundraising, and non-district. In athletics, we're talking really 3 main groups. The first one's football. That's probably our biggest user of security services. We have a basic protocol for football games. It's normally 4 officers. There have been changes that I've made. Last week I made a change, and it's usually based on the individual situation. Last week I added 2 officers to the Pleasant Grove Cosumnes Oaks game because we just knew it was going to be packed. We knew they were going to need some assistance with parking. Normally in that type of situation, I'll go to the principal and I'll go to secondary ed, kind of say, here's what I'm thinking about, and together we will normally agree on that. Also last week, we have officers, 4 officers at each of the schools. Towards the tail end of the Sheldon game, we saw that the traffic was going to be a bit of a problem, so actually moved officers from Monterey Trail to Sheldon to help out with that. But our basic footprint is 4 officers. Deputy sheriff off duty costs us about $53 an hour is what we're paying under our new contract. So that's the basic protocol for football. Basketball is our second largest group. Normally we have the same kind of protocol. It's 2 officers. Again, we'll watch matchups. If we see 2 particular teams that may have not gotten along together in the past, we may raise it up. One of the issues we saw towards the end of last year, and Rod Evans and myself have been working on it, is Friday night soccer under the lights had a few issues. And so we began to look at one officer deployment at those types of events. What's changed is that we now have the potential to have basketball games and soccer games going on at the same time at the same site. And so we're looking at the model. I would say it's probably going to be the same. It'll be one for a soccer game and two bodies for the basketball game. So that kind of covers athletics. When we look at non-athletics, you know, these are dances, plays, open houses, any of those kinds of things that don't necessarily involve athletics in general, but not to muddy the waters, it could be an athletic event if it's, say, a league finals or a basketball clinic or a wrestling tournament or something like that that's not specific to the site, but they're just using the facility. And so normally in those, if it's an outside event, we'll see a facilities use form come in. After it's, the folks here review it, they usually send it to me. I look at it for a couple of things. One, the size of the event. We've had some of these events that went, they were 1,500 plus people going to be there. A lot of them are in the 800 to 1,000 people range. So when I look at size, we look at past history with the events that have happened in the area and the site. We look at the teams that are going to be there. And normally if it's an outside, well, I'll make a determination on what the security level could be, and it could be anywhere from 1 or 2, or at the other extreme, we'll just cover it with patrol. If it's just some kind of play or something like that, we'll say, you know what, we'll check in with them from time to time, make sure everything's okay. In those types of events, normally the security is paid for by the person hosting the event, so it doesn't come from an internal source. Other types are fundraising, and again, these can be athletic or non-athletic. It just really depends on it. In the past 3 months, we've had fundraising wrestling tournaments. We've had fundraising basketball tournaments, those types of things. And again, in my mind, if it's a fundraiser and we need security, then it probably ought to be coming from the people that are putting it on. We've been behind the curve on a couple of them where we just, for some reason, didn't know it was going to happen, and I covered the security out of my own budget in those because it was kind of after the fact, but we wanted to make sure everybody was safe. And then we have the non-district. These are just straight up folks from the community that want to use our sites. And again, I was thinking about this. They could be athletic and non-athletic in terms of the Sacramento Raiders would be a good example. They tend to come in large groups, and a lot of times they bring a lot of baggage with them. And so we normally require them, and we have this last year that they provide security. But these are normally the key clubs and those types of things that are used to parent community groups, community meetings, clinics, classes that outside groups are holding during weekends. So this is the basic usage as we see it. We try to be as thoughtful as we possibly can when we're making the determinations for safety, but a lot goes into the decision other than how it's being paid for. We really are looking at safety, and we're looking at background, and we do have quite a bit of history on most of the people that use them, so we know. To give you some idea, right now the number still holds pretty much 7 days a week. We have 35 non-school related events occurring at our schools. The bulk of these events are happening at the elementary schools for the most part, and they're more centric to the community. The larger, broader scope things tend to go to the high school. The categories, some of the big categories that really sprung out toward the end of last year, after-hour home calls. This is the 2 o'clock in the morning knock on the door to make sure that your son's okay, or they made it home, or a lot of times it's the bus came and gone and my student's not there, so we're going out. Non-school related crime, a lot of what we saw last year were big events, but they just happened around us as opposed to happening on our sites. And so they're more neighborhood-related issues. We saw a lot of, in the South County, a lot of issues involving gangs that were actually North County gangs that were coming down from basically the county corridor and down into the southern part of the district, and were causing us some problems. Family crisis, a lot of CPS issues that we're seeing, that we're getting called out to, and then of course students needing assistance. This again is a lot of threat assessments, not only in terms of violence and threatened violence, but also threats of committing suicide, those types of things. We've seen a huge increase in the beginning of the school year. We've seen a lot of, I think in the first 10 days or first 14 days, we'd had 5150 intakes from our schools. And so they're students in need. We've been working very closely with secondary ed. That's primarily where we're seeing it, and education services. And we put together a solid plan for not only addressing the issue when it's an emergency, but also follow up to make sure that we're meeting the students' needs and we're there for them when they do come back into school. So that's been a big part of our work. Community outreach, the tail end of last year, and already a couple times this year, Zanti and I went out to a lot of these community type meetings. Elk Grove City Council had 2 or 3 meetings they had at different sites. Sacramento City Council, a lot of neighborhood watch groups, parent community meetings. So we were involved in a lot of discussions and presentations for I can't think of one that was really in any way adversarial, and a lot of this was going on when down in the South area when Franklin was kind of getting bombarded with their issues, and I think they went very, very well, very, very receptive. Our relationships with Elk Grove PD and Sacramento PD are right now as good as I think they've ever been. They're very willing to engage with us. They're doing everything they can to help us, especially with our traffic issues, which is a huge one. But their sergeants and lieutenants are in and out of the office checking in all the time, and so I think things are going really well. We hold a seat on the Mayor's Anti-Gang Task Force Policy Committee. That's given us some real insight in not only what's going in our district, but also a lot of what's going up in Sacramento proper in the gang work, and it's given us some good background and kind of explains why we're seeing some of the creep down that we're seeing into the county in terms of gang activity. So that's been very beneficial. Coordination of services. Our main partners outside the district, of course, is the Sacramento County Sheriff's Department, Elk Grove PD, Sacramento PD, Rancho Cordova PD, CHP. We've also made inroads with the fire agencies, the Community Service District, Sac Fire, and Sac Metro Fire. I'm trained and now a member of the Terror Liaison Group and Intelligence Center for Homeland Security. Matter of fact, I'm going to a law enforcement briefing tomorrow. So we have the ability now to get firsthand intelligence information in terms of threats that may be coming in our area, and along that lines, Steve Mate has been plugged into the cybersecurity technology and advisory. So we're anytime it has to do with our communications network, our technical network, our infrastructure, he's now getting information on that. Public utilities, we met with both SMUD and PG&E and talked about emergency incident operations and how those may be conducted. We've got a really good relationship with maintenance and operations. The folks have been great in addressing concerns that have come up, and a lot of after hours issues that have come up. And then of course a big part of what we do is just the extracurricular activity, the coordination. A lot of the things we talked about in the types of events we're seeing. In terms of recent changes to the division, we've taken a look at the Comprehensive School Safety Plan. I think there was a lot of unnecessary verbiage in there that wasn't required by law or practice, so we cleaned up a lot of that. We've standardized a lot of the response material, so it's populated in the report now. So what we're looking for is just, what is your plan? Give us your discipline data, give us that kind of stuff, and it will help you get that plan. So we're trying to streamline it so, one, it means something to the sites, but also it's not a laborious endeavor that it really doesn't need to be. Threat assessment and training. The entire staff now has been trained in threat assessment, not only in terms of actual physical threat assessment or site threat assessment, but also mental health threat assessments. We felt it was necessary to go back and do some refresher training on that to make sure that we're all recognizing things the way they should be recognized. Administrator assistance, this was a big part of the training for the new school security specialists to understand their role in assisting the administrators. And again, this was geared towards the elementary schools. The high schools and middle schools are really pretty good at working with their SROs and the law enforcement officers. They've had a lot of experience, but the elementary schools maybe not so much. So we're making sure that they understand what the wants and needs of the elementary side are, and they're able to address that. Mass casualty, we've already begun the training. We just had a training with the secondary principals. We have it ready to continue. Our plan is, as we move through the year, to get as many of the folks in the district trained on it. Active shooter training, we're working with other allied agencies. Probably during the Thanksgiving break, we'll actually have a scenario-based active shooter training at one of our sites. And in addition, we have the Sandy Hook, the main investigator of Sandy Hook's coming out to put a class on next week, I believe it is. And I'm sending the entire staff. I think it's important that they really understand the dynamics of those types of situations so we can meet and address those. School lockdowns, we went out, met with most administrators, just kind of talked about what we would expect if you're in a lockdown, when we get there, how we would interact and what we expect. Traffic control continues to be a major issue. This is one of those things, we can't enforce our way out of it. There's just not enough bodies in the county to do it. So we need to really address it more from an education standpoint, a visibility standpoint. Spend a lot of time myself out there talking to parents, find out why they're doing what they're doing. And I think there's logistically there are some things we may be able to do. We've got some plan Bs and plan Cs in place that we may want to try, but I think a lot of it that we've seen so far was just the start of the year kind of thing. It seems to be tapering off a bit, but we still have some issues at some of our elementary schools, and we're working on that. We have our camp supervisor training ready to go and in place. We've done a lot of work with emergency operations and command management so that we're making sure that we're able to integrate with the allied agencies when they do come on our sites in case there's a major incident. And then we have our emergency communications protocols in place that Zanti will talk about in a minute. Budget impact. So far, I think things have been fairly positive. We've had an elimination of all on-call overtime in its entirety. We've replaced all of our outdated safety equipment. We've replaced all of our outdated communications equipment. The division is now responsible for the maintenance and operation of all the radios. We've purchased spare parts and batteries, so we're trying to get that turnaround as quickly as we possibly can. And then we also have our new MOU with the Sacramento County Sheriff's Department. A couple things that were built into it. The superintendent now has a lot more oversight into the operations of the police services side of it, actually outlined in the MOU. The MOU came in about $50,000 less than the last MOU we had with the same level of service, but we cleaned up a lot of the ambiguous things that were in there, and so we're fairly happy with it. It's a one-year agreement with an option for a second and third year that we could activate sometime next April or May. So it's for the most part, I think we cleaned up a lot of the issues that were kind of gray area. There's a lot of the gray area is gone now. We know who's responsible for what and what everyone's role is. And with that, I'll turn it over to Zanti.
Good evening, President St. Allen, members of the board, and Superintendent Hoffman, Ms. Avalos. On the communications side, when it comes to emergency crisis communications, we have three main methods of communicating with people, and that's printed, audio, and video. So, for example, the types of notification are the letters that go home to parents. Those have to be printed and translated often before they go out. We also have emails to parents that we use with the new technology with School Messenger. And we also still use School Loop messages that have attachments. It's for secondary only, but it does address two audiences. The emails to parents does go to parents or who they've designated in terms of emergency contacts, but School Loop also addresses students. So if students are signed up on School Loop, they'll also get the message. We also use the emergency auto dialer, so that would be audio. Those are now recorded messages that can also be sent by text if necessary as well. And then we have the new texting component as part of School Messenger, which little by little is being used as people sign up for the texting option. We also have the website posts that we can use. If we have, for example, a district-wide event, we'll make use of our district website to post as soon as we can the situation that's happening, and then get that out to either through the school sites and their EduBlogs with their webmasters, as well as to School Loop in addition to that. From a technology for our communications, Technology Services has provided us with three platforms. One is desktop emailer, which still exists. We still use it depending on situations. School Messenger is something that we're moving over to and we're getting trained on. Our department's been trained, as well as Tech Services. So from a district side, we have full capability with School Messenger to be able to address the whole district as well as even one site. We also have School Loop, which is at each site and also at the district level. In terms of new technology for tech services, communications, and school sites, School Messenger and the list that we've developed is really the newest technology that we have, which is the auto dialer, email, and texting. And we're also going to be having ongoing training with School Messenger to provide us more insight into how we can better utilize the communication strength that they have, both for crisis and then for other kinds of communications.
All right, thank you for that fabulous presentation. I will turn it over to my colleagues for any questions or comments. We'll start with Ms. Chaitis Espinosa.
Thank you both for that fabulous presentation, chock full of very useful stuff. I can see that you've been busy, Mr. Oroso, so thank you very much. It's very helpful, I think, for us to have those updates in the course of your work, and instead of saving them until there's a specific request. So thank you very much. Lots of comments, lots of questions, so I'll just start off with the top. Thank you so much for your continued work on traffic enforcement. It's good to hear that you're continuing to partner with Elk Grove PD in particular. And I agree with you. I think we can't enforce our way out of that problem. So to the extent that you have any recommendations, anything we can do on the preventative side, please. I'm eager to hear your thoughts on that. Let's see. I was curious, in the training that the security specialists have received, have we ever provided them with any training about a trauma-informed approach to, I know that they know about de-escalating a situation, but our teachers and other staff have been provided recently with opportunities to get a better understanding about, how trauma may affect the behavior that students bring to class. Have security staff received that?
No, and to tell you the truth, I think it would probably be a very good idea, because we have that constant bridge between law enforcement and the school site, and that's just kind of the reality that we work under. There's kind of two sides to what we do. There's the emergency incident, stopping whatever's going on or getting it under control, and then there's the recovery. And I think that would be a very good suggestion towards to understanding and adapting to the recovery side of it. So I will look into that.
Okay, excellent. Related to that, and I won't take credit because my colleague, Mr. Forcina, brought this up earlier, that as the school district broadens the spectrum of special needs students that we are serving directly on campus as opposed to serving them in non-public schools, it would also be important for our security specialists to have a better understanding about how to deal with, say, you know, a big, tall high school student on the autism spectrum, things like that.
We've actually, we've already started that discussion with Mr. Cerruti's staff. We've met a couple times and the issue had come up, and it is one we're looking to address. And again, it gets kind of back to, we have the event that we need to stabilize, and then how are we going to address it? But that is one of the issues that we identified that we're looking at.
Excellent. Yeah, that's another area that we probably see, you know, an increasing possibility for incidences to occur.
Absolutely.
So that's excellent. Thanks also for your team's work on threat assessments and home visits. One of the things I tell people often about this gig, about being a school board member and the work that you all do, is that what's hard about public education isn't so much the educating part, it's everything else that kids bring with them. And this is one of those areas that I think a lot of people wouldn't understand, wouldn't think that it's part of the job that a school district does. So it's very important. Thank you so much for doing that. One thing that came to mind with respect to school safety plans and the communications piece, I know that we had some incidents last year. I think Franklin High School may be what I'm thinking about specifically. That really horrible week when lots of things happened. It seemed that some of the communications to our staff, there was a bit of a gap, that if you weren't in front of a computer or within earshot of a PA system, you didn't get the timely information about what was going on. So with both communications and our school safety plans, I would just urge you both to take a look at, you know, the very many different things our staff are doing and the very many places that they can be, and to make sure that we are including all of them. They don't all have walkie-talkies, for example. It's very important that they all get the information in a timely fashion.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Last, how do we sign up for text alerts? I know this is a new system and I'm very excited about it, particularly when we're talking about families who may not have ready internet access at home or just a habit of checking that. It's a very exciting development. So how do I sign up?
We can definitely make sure you have the information, the text to sign up. It's a simple reply to a text number, and we can send that out to you. And that's something that we, when we first introduced the new technology coming out with School Messenger, in our press release, we added in there how parents can actually text to submit their information that they want to be texted. Where we also have to then double check is on the back side, that they go into their school site and also make sure that if you want to be attached to your student in terms of the text, that it's recorded at the school site as well, that you want to receive the text message.
You have to make sure you don't delete it, because it actually comes through. It doesn't necessarily look like what you think it might look like.
Right.
So we'll send out to make sure you're aware of what it is when it shows up on your own. 'Cause I got it as a dad. I'm like, do I really want this? And I call mate. Yeah, you want that. So boom, and I get texts all the time.
Yeah,
Thank
we'll
you.
send that out.
Thank you.
Thank you for those excellent questions and comments. Anybody else on my left?
I would just like to thank you for the thorough report you gave. Just a couple things came to mind. As far as the active shooter training, I think that's very important and necessary, especially at the college level. At times, too, in secondary, you know, in the higher education system, it's been a major concern. And I know nowadays with different events happening at the school sites, how critical that could be, as well as the suicide rates. So again, anything that we can do preventative from those measures are really important. And then also just a side comment, I wasn't sure how different events such as maybe promotions or graduations are included or classified also. And then I was just curious as to how runaways and that type of procedures are dealt with too on your end, or do you partner with the local agency and hand that off in that area as well?
Your first question, graduations and promotions are actually built into the system. They're a secondary ed function, and security is part of that. And usually during the planning process, we'll come up with a plan for what type of security we'll put in place. In terms of runaways, our basic attitude is, if you're a student in this district, we're going to do everything we can to find you. And normally we don't. We'll work with other agencies, but we'll hold on to that responsibility as long as we can. And so far, in terms of students that just wandered off, we've been pretty successful in being able to find them, reunite them with their families. Last year we had 2 runaways. One of them took us almost 4 months to find, but we kept looking. And the nice thing about our program here is they usually maintain contact with their friends in the district. And so that information comes to us pretty handily. We, whether it's a threat assessment, threat and suicide, if we're not going to put it off on somebody else, we'll go knock on our door, see with our own eyes that our student's safe. And we're treating the runaways and the wander-offs in the same way.
Mr. Perez, did you have any questions or comments?
I have a few comments and suggestions. I know you work with a wide variety of people. Well, first of all, excellent job for both of you. I know that you have done a tremendous job out there in our community in making sure that our students are safe and they're stress-free when they go to school, et cetera, et cetera.
Appreciate that.
But I know that on your service delivery model, I know you work with like CBOs, but I'm not sure where you address that in your presentation. And also, I know the fact that you also work with the fire departments within the variety of our schools in the district. So I was wondering, where would you put that in your service delivery? Would you put that in your page 7 report or diagram, or?
No, in our diagram, that's strictly in-house.
Okay.
Those are people that are working for the district or another agency, but actually within our system. Fire departments, we really look at as an allied agency, depending on, and we look at them two ways. If we had an event, say fire at one of our campuses, what is their expectation of us as security providers? But also we're learning what they would do if they came onto our site. So they're more of an allied agency relationship, and so we don't treat them in-house as part of our division.
Okay. And also, I guess the community outreach, like I said, that I know you work with CBOs within our community, also with the homeless community, and what you mentioned, a variety of state, federal, county governments. But I was wondering, your comprehensive safe school plan, is that very similar to what the state of California does? We used to call it the emergency disaster relief plan. Is that very similar to that?
It's very similar. The only, in addition to the emergency operation plan that you would see in that one, we also collect additional data. There's attendance data, there's discipline data, there's past history, event data, training, that type of stuff. And the state model is very specific in what it requires. And in its, the majority of the report is populated with individual incident management, a bomb threat, an active shooter, flood, fire, power outages, irate parent. And those are models that we've developed within the school that we populate the report with. So there's a lot of how to address different types of situations, but at its heart, it's the same as the state emergency incident plan.
Well,
in
okay,
function.
because I asked, and then you mentioned that we're vulnerable at the district office and a variety of other facilities within our school district. So I understand you're also working on that issue. So with that, for instance, a data computer backup system, is that do we have that in place right now?
Yes, we do.
Okay. For the school
Not
district.
within my shop, but
But yes, I understand that.
But we
Okay.
do.
And you feel that's comfortable, that's it works?
I think our data system is as secure as,
Okay.
at this point as
So
you can get one.
what area within the school district office are we weak in then?
I think we've seen incidents where people have walked in off the street that really had no business being here. I think that's one of them. I think there's a bit of angst on some of the employees who work in this building. Just watching the news. I mean, it's really nothing specific to just day-to-day happenings in our community. We have a huge fleet that travels a long way that are delivering students that is a potential area of vulnerability. I think the reality is that schools and school sites are no longer protected ground. I think there's people out there that want to make a splash, and a good way to do it would be at a school. So there's a lot of things I think that we recognize first, and I think that's a long ways towards preventing it, and then we're addressing as aggressively as we possibly can. But I think Superintendent Hoffman's premise was, let's understand what we need, and then understand what we truly need to move forward. And that's kind of the state that we're at now. And as those issues, as we've identified them, we'll put plans in place and modify them as needed.
We just, I wasn't sure if you were here earlier, we had a parent come to a board meeting and mention that the biggest problem was, parents leaving right after they drop off their kids. What can we do about that? And speeding and driving recklessly. And in fact, I witnessed that almost every day within, when kids go in from Florin High School in the community where I live in. So I even requested the Highway Patrol officers to possibly come during that hours and just maybe be more visible. Or something.
We have,
Right.
but when you look at, the reality is, if I took every officer, every sworn officer in the county and put them at a site to do that, we wouldn't cover half our sites. There's just not enough bodies to do that. So we need to, in my opinion, we need to address it in a different way. I think talking, somebody from the district in a uniform said, hey, I'm not gonna write you a ticket, but let's understand what you're doing here. When we went and looked at Albioni and Pleasant Grove, what we discovered was that it's a traffic flow in their mind. The parents were doing something we didn't anticipate that they would be doing. And for the reasons being that they were doing it. They want to stay on the main roads, so they shoot in and shoot out. So we have Albioni coming in from one direction and Pleasant Grove coming in from the other. Well, until we stopped and talked to them, we would have never found out about it. Now that we know what indeed they're doing, now we have a chance to put together a couple options where we can change it. So it's just not parents doing dumb things in front of schools. There's usually a reason for the way those traffic patterns unfold. And part of what we're doing is just trying to get a better understanding of what does that really entail. The CHP, the Sheriff's Traffic Unit, Elk Grove PD Unit, Traffic Unit, SAC PD Unit, they have been great. And if we really look at something and say this is an absolute hazardous situation, they'll come out at the drop of a hat and they'll write tickets till, they run out. But, there's more to it than just going out there with a badge and saying, you need to stop doing this. And that's what we're trying to get a better understanding.
And one last thing I noticed this school year, there's bigger, louder mufflers coming and going out in our communities. What's going on there?
I'm not sure other than, you know what?
No.
When I was 19, I probably had one that was too loud myself, so.
Okay, it's kind of getting irritating. Okay.
So
No, it's a noise issue.
All right, Mr. Forcino.
Hello, Joe.
How are you?
Suffice to say that I certainly feel we're in a better place today than we were 2 years ago, with the clarity in terms of what we're doing and who's doing it and the when and how and all that. Most of my questions I have are clarification questions. With respect to the 1 to 3 off-duty SSDs, and you said they're called depending upon what you're looking at as workload and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But it has budgetary implications. So, is there one on call all the time, two on call all the time? You call them if you need them.
They're actually working.
They're working. So it's 1 to 3.
1, 2, 3.
That you schedule.
Yes.
Okay. So they're regular.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I would like you, if you would take a few minutes and spend some time discussing and defining what you meant by integration of the campus supervisors. You're doing integration and training. What is integration?
Right now, we're working with secondary ed. We're in the ASME. We're looking at exactly how that would best be implemented. We've got some ideas on paper. We're circulating those back and forth. I think that from my own standpoint, we need to standardize the duties and functions and our expectations of how the campus supervisors work and conduct their day-to-day operations. But we also have to, at some point, take into account that each site has its own unique characteristics. And at the end of the day, they work at those sites and have to be able to interact with those sites to address their own uniqueness. I think as far as the training, we have a very good idea of what's needed, and that is prepared to go. So I think at this point, we're looking at just working out the logistics of how that will look in the end, in terms of supervision and that type of thing.
So for integration, you're walking the road of principals, unions, personnel, et cetera, in terms of,
No, I don't think there's a line to walk. I mean, for the most part, everybody, I think, is in agreement about,
yeah, it's an expression.
yeah. No, I don't view it that way at all. It hasn't been an us or them kind of issue at all. I think everybody has been in agreement on where we want to go, but we just want to make sure that we protect the integrity of the program, but still allow the principals the latitude that they need to be able to have the program work within their site.
And
So it hasn't been, there hasn't been a major issue that I've seen at this point, other than just working out the fine points of it.
well, follow up on a point that you did make, and I've discussed this with Chris before, with respect to many functions in the district, and that's the issue of consistency. There's 70 campus supervisors at nine high schools, and everyone plays by their rules. And when I say that, I'm not making it, it's not a negative comment, but they play by their rules with respect to what they think is needed at their particular site. But there has to be some commonality in what is provided.
No question, and I don't think there's any disagreement on that at all. I think we're all exactly on the same page on that's one of the main priorities of the program, so
Okay.
no argument.
All right, thank you. And I just want to follow up on the school safety plans. You now have assumed total responsibility for the development of those plans, which include all the things you talked about, lockdowns, earthquake, fire, active shooter, so on and so forth. So you're developing the plans and then providing them to the principals?
No, other than changing the format a bit, we have always been responsible for the coordination of and working with the sites as the sites develop their plans. But what we've done, and then we collect those plans, we review them, we provide them to you for final input and approval. But what we did was we looked at the common things. Everybody's going to treat a bomb threat the same way. Everybody's going to do a lockdown basically the same way. If a flood happens, here's what we're going to do. So what we tried to do was populate that plan with as much of that as we could, so that the principal, the site administrators weren't having to do it, so they could focus on their unique data that they need to provide as part of the overall plan structure. But
all right. So
I guess you could say at the end of the day, are we responsible for the completion of the plan? Yeah.
But, so the actual finished document is the responsibility of the principal?
Yes.
Okay. So, and then with respect to training, that is totally theirs also, or do you interface on some of those areas?
On aspects of the plan?
Yeah, like active shooter or whatever.
Anything that would fall within our expertise, we'd be more than happy to assist the sites in training. As we said, we've already started the MASH casualty training, which I guess would fall in that category as part of their plan. And we've trained the principals, and our plan is to eventually be training the school site staffs. So that would be an example of how that would probably work.
Okay.
If it's within our expertise, we'd be glad to provide it.
Okay. And then the last question, you showed a .5 SARB officer. Is that .5 contracted as a .5 or as needed?
No, we contract for 10 SROs. We've identified that in-house. Half that position would be assigned to the SARB.
All right, so the half is assigned as needed, not straight assigned.
I would say that's true based on our model, the pyramid model we've all seen.
Right.
If it escalates to that point, then we would become involved. And so
Right.
really, there could be 8-10 days straight where it's all SARB, and then we have a break. But basically, we're saying the SRO that's assigned to the alternative sites part of that position, up to half, could be used for SARB.
Okay, last question.
Okay.
When you refer to the staffing for football, are you referencing all football? In other words, are you referencing Thursday freshmen along with JV and?
No.
Are there other things that go on then at school sites that have SROs on site at nighttime? Like a lot of them, and I'll give you an example. Last Thursday night at CO was freshman football between CO and Pleasant Grove High School. And there was some idiot that crashed into a light pole because he was chasing somebody. And 4 sheriff's vehicles came from within the interior of CO. They didn't come from the street.
One of the deputies that was there was actually the CO deputy who, at that night, was actually our swing yard.
When you were
was
talking
working
about.
swings. The other one were just Sheriff's Department patrol that were working South County.
Okay.
But Officer Francis, who works at CO, was also the swing shift officer that night. So,
Okay. Thanks, Joe.
you're welcome.
Done a good job.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Madison?
Mr. Rosso, I'd like to ask just a few questions in line with prevention. How well do you interact with Mr. Ross's department with expulsions, suspensions, and are you?
Since I took this job, there hasn't been a lot of cause to do it. You know, as administrator for 7 years, I sat on on expulsion panels. I was also a member of the placement committee, so I did a lot of work with them over a lot of years.
With your current job?
Yeah, with the current job, you know, one of the things we're working very hard on is making sure that we don't allow discipline to become criminalized. And so there's a great part of our resources that are geared specifically towards law enforcement. And so we're constantly making sure that there's a separation between that, because we don't want the community or our students to feel that things that are discipline issues are going to be raised to the criminal level. And so we're not staying completely away from them, because we also have that function of our SO, of our school resource officers, as part of the site administrative team, working with students to work out those kinds of issues. So although I don't have a lot of opportunity outside of a few discussions about SARB to work with them, I don't see a problem at all. I mean, we've always had a really good
Well,
relationship.
let me tell you the reason why I asked that question is because when I go through the expulsions, suspensions, I look at it, one of the major causes, particularly in our comprehensive high schools, is narcotics, particularly marijuana.
Yes, sir.
And it really concerns me. And several years ago, we did some testing, and we got some fairly good results where we had narcotic dogs around on campus periodically. It wasn't a secret. We actually told the community why we're doing it, and the parents were very receptive to it to come around. And this last school year, I saw so many marijuana suspensions, expulsions. It's not at one high school, it's all around. So that's why I asked that question. Are we looking at interfacing a little bit more with the sheriff's department like we did at one time, where we actually had narcotic dogs and the kids were aware of it, and they said, you know what, maybe I might not have that in my backpack, you know, this time. Just a thought. I'm just asking that question to you.
No, actually, it's come up a couple times. The Sheriff's Department's K-9 team is in transition. 2 officers are actually retiring, 2 new ones are coming on. We've spent a lot of time making that, having those discussions, in addition to the marijuana, also doing bomb search training on our sites, getting back into integrating them. And that specific comment is coming up in our evaluation report, so we are addressing it as soon as their resources become available to us, we're going to get them back to training.
I just think that should be in your long-term plan, and look at it, interface with Mr. Ross' department. And as you go around these high schools where we have K-9 dogs that turn around and the kids can see that visibility, I think in the show we want to deter it. It's not going to solve all the problems. and they are told what we're doing out there. So I'm concerned in that area when I look at the report of expulsions and
I couldn't
suspensions.
agree with you more. I think the deterrent effect is the same as that we're putting 4 officers in a football game. Well, there's a reason. There's 4 cars, there's 4 paint
Understand.
jobs, there's 4, and the dog does the same thing.
Okay.
If they see it, they know it, there is a deterrent effect, so.
Right, I mean, during the campus, during the actual day, when the kids are in school, they could see it periodically. Say, wow, you know what we're doing here a little bit. We are concerned about it.
We'll make it happen.
Okay, and second thing, I was looking at, again, prevention too. As I travel and go to various schools, I'm concerned about the IDs. You know, we wanted to have a clamp down on that, particularly with some of the schools with the mass killings, and we don't know who's on our campus. And I go to some of these high schools, and I don't see if it's an employee we have there that should have a badge on, or who is. It is something I think we better come back and reinforce a little bit about our name tags. I mean, I walk on a campus, of course, I've been around here a long time, so they know me, but you walk in, who is it? And what do we want? So that something concerns me as well.
We'll look into it.
And you mentioned too, the South Sector Raiders. That's a little pop water team. What did you mean by lots of outside baggage? So the teams are going to the various schools? Or?
They tend to travel with a lot of trouble, I guess is what I'm getting to. A lot of their fans that follow them, not necessarily, not even parents, it's just people who show up to watch them. Last year we had probably close to 12 incidents that were either fights in the parking lot or fights in the stands and that type of thing. And it wasn't specifically picking them out. It was just using them as an example of a non-district or a non-school related athletic event that was on our sites that's being used. And you know, we worked with them and came to a compromise. They're now providing their own security. In addition, we'll usually have one of our people supervising it. So they've recognized the problem, and like I said, it wasn't an intent to throw them under the bus. It was just as an example of that type of issue.
Yeah, I just wonder how we're interfacing with them. If it's a problem with the team overall, do we want to make certain that we are proactive with them?
Oh, absolutely.
We don't talk.
I mean, we'll carry on a dialogue and see if we can work the issue out. In this case, we did.
Okay. And then lastly, the elimination of on-time, on-call overtime. How many dollars did that save us?
I would say probably close to about $160,000.
Okay. Thank you. Good report.
Ms.
I'm
Aliani.
not sure what could be left.
I
but
know.
I will tell
I've been
you, I live
scratching
on
my list
Pleasant
off.
Grove School Road, and I see more police officers than I ever have on my road, which is a positive and a negative, and I really do appreciate them being by our school. So thank you very much. It was a great report, and I love the comments. They've obviously asked many of those questions.
Great, excellent comments and questions from my colleagues, so kudos to all of you. I wanted to recognize and congratulate you on the thoroughness of this report, because of course, you know, safety and security of our students is our #1 priority outside of providing the best education that we can in our district. And I can honestly say with great confidence that we are better than we were 2 years ago, based on what I have seen and based on what I have read. We are doing so much more, and I appreciate that. I'm pleased to see the improved safety and security plan in general, the updated training and support. I think that's fantastic. I really appreciate the stronger relationships that we have with our law enforcement, because I know that did not exist, and that was a source of great contention in our respective communities. So I really thank everyone that was involved in improving communications, because when we do that, so you know what comes from that is also ensuring greater safety and security when those lines aren't blurred there.
Absolutely.
And who's responsible for what. I also appreciate the fiscal responsibility, going to Mr. Madison's comment on the elimination of the overtime. So thank you again. All that money goes back into our schools, into our children's classrooms. So thank you for being mindful of that. One of the things Mr. Madison did bring up, and I'm definitely interested on that prevention side of it, of things. I would be supportive of dogs, canines, being visible, because I don't want to lose children to suspensions and expulsions. I want them learning. And kids make bad choices. But we as adults can also help them along the way of ensuring a school environment that, perhaps curtails on those desires to bring negative things to school, be it marijuana or other kinds of drugs. And I think, just having, random sweeps, I think would go a long way.
Yeah, it's not meant to be punitive or.
Right,
but
because
it's-
the punitive is the suspension and the expulsion, in my opinion. So,
One of the
if you
things
know
that
that
got
this is there,
lost
yeah.
was the whole role of the SRO as not necessarily a law enforcement officer, but somebody who was going to go out and engage the students and be part of the education process and do all those things that you've talked about. I just think in the last 3 or 4 years, we were just overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Since November 1st, we've handled 3,473 incidents that cause an officer to be removed from availability for patrol. And so those are long-term documented incidents. Total incidents were over 5,000.
Yeah.
And so there's a tremendous amount of firefighting going on, and to some extent, we've lost that important role of the SROs and our other people in integrating themselves into the education community
Yeah.
and doing all those things. And our plan is to get that back as quickly as we can, because we think it's very important to integrate with our school
Absolutely.
community.
And so that brings my other point is on, years ago, when I worked, when I was on the Elk Grove Teen Center Board of Directors, back then it was called, I think, Every 15 Minutes program, and it was coordination with law enforcement and our school sites to educate on, drunk driving. And it included all of the school, the entire school, and teaching the impacts, and you'd have gravestones there, and, essentially, you'd have obituaries and you'd have eulogies and remembering students, and it was very powerful. It was also led with students versus adults coming there and just being preachy and telling them what to do and think. It was a coordinated effort. I'd like to see some of that, at some point we go back to something like that, because, that's a huge issue. And I think that opens up great opportunities for collaboration. And then last, the sites are, of course, as you stated, the principals are responsible for implementing the program. So I just want to make sure that they have the requisite professional development and training to ensure. So we can have wonderful programs and protocol, but we want to make sure that they have all of the tools they need to succeed.
Absolutely.
So the more that we can provide professional development, the better off we will all be. And then I would encourage my colleagues to go along on a ride-along. I did it a couple of years ago. It gives you a better understanding and perspective of what it looks like. So rather than just reading about this, you actually get to see it. I've done that, and it's definitely, it's very rewarding. So, so thank you for your fantastic report. All right, next up, let's see, moving on. I'd like to call in Ms. Bindi Gariwal, Dr. Gariwal, excuse me, for our tentative agreement between Elk Grove Unified School District and the Amalgamated Transit Union, ATU. Dr. Gariwal.
Good evening, President Singh Allen, members of the board, Superintendent Hoffman, and Mrs. Avalos. The tentative agreement between the district and ATU has been ratified by ATU, and the AB 1200 review was approved by SCOE. The board is asked to conduct a public hearing to present the tentative agreement reached through negotiations on August the 8th. The board president is asked to announce and open a public hearing with a request for anyone who wishes to speak to the proposal to please come forward. After listening to any speakers, the board president should close the public hearing. After closing the public hearing, the board should be asked to take action to approve the tentative agreement.
All right, thank you, Dr. Gariwal. At this time, I will call for a public hearing for anyone who wishes to speak to the tentative agreement between EGUSD and ATU. All right, seeing none, I will close the public hearing and call for a motion to approve the 2016-2017 tentative agreement between Elk Grove Unified School District and ATU. Motion to approve for Mr. Madison.
Aye.
And second from Mr. Fortino. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All right, thank you. Moving on, let's see, we have action items, Constitution Day, Mr. Mark Cerruti.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Hoffman, and Ms. Avalos. I appreciate the opportunity to bring this forward to the board. The board is requested to adopt the resolution that designates September 17th, 2016 as Constitution Day. Since the 17th falls on a Saturday, the district will observe Constitution Day on Monday, September 19th, 2016. In 2004, Congress created the federal holiday Constitution Day, designated to be September 17th. And through this resolution, the Board of Education would communicate a clear message about the importance of our country's foundational governing document.
All right, thank you, Mr. Cerruti. I would like to call for a motion to adopt resolution number 12 that designates September 17th, 2016 as Constitution Day. And since the 17th falls on a Saturday this year, the district will observe Constitution Day on Monday, September 19th.
Move it. Okay. Second.
Okay, motion to approve from Mr. Perez and a second from Mr. Fortuna. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Thank you. And next up, we have Mr. Cerruti again for Hispanic Heritage Month.
Thank you, ma'am. The Board of Education is requested to adopt the resolution that designates September 15th through October 15th Hispanic Heritage Month. In September 1968, Congress authorized President Johnson to proclaim National Hispanic Heritage Week. The observance was expanded in 1988 to a month-long celebration. And throughout the year, the contributions of Americans with Hispanic heritage are presented in the regular curriculum. However, this special focus for 1 month serves as a reminder of the combined contributions of this important group.
All right, I would like to call for a motion to adopt resolution number 13 that designates September 15th through October 15th as Hispanic Heritage Month.
I'd like to move approval.
All right, we have a motion to approve Mr. Fortuna and a second from Mr. Perez. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, next up, we have our pupil textbook and instructional materials, Ms. Geraldine Ewing. Good evening.
Good evening, President Singh Allen, members of the Board of Education, Superintendent Hoffman, and Ms. Avalos. As you will recall, the Board of Education held a public hearing in accordance with Education Code 60119 regarding textbooks and instructional materials at the last board meeting held on August 16th. Tonight, I'm here to request the approval of Resolution Number 11, certifying that instructional materials fund monies are expended in accordance with the Pupil Textbook and Instructional Materials Incentive Program Act, ensuring that each pupil has sufficient textbooks or instructional materials.
All right, I would like to call for a motion to approve Resolution Number 11, certifying that the Elk Grove Unified School District is in compliance with the Pupil Textbook and Instructional Materials Incentive Program Act, ensuring that each pupil has sufficient instructional materials. Motion to approve from Mr. Madison. Second from Mr. Fortuna. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up, Mr. Pierce for the establishment of school boundaries for 2 new elementary schools.
Thank you, President Singh Allen, members of the board, Superintendent Hoffman, and Ms. Avalos. Long presentation in front of you, but I promise to be brief. We have gone through this extensively on a couple of occasions, the last being August 16th. So I just wanted to touch on a few highlights for the board tonight, see that you had any questions before we ask you to take action tonight on boundaries for 2 new exciting elementary schools. So naturally, as a result of the construction of 2 new elementary schools in your boundaries, the board is asked to consider new boundaries that those 2 elementary schools would be located in and the effect on the adjacent elementary schools. Tonight we're talking about Anatolia 2 Elementary School, which is in the north portion of our district in the city of Rancho Cordova, and Laguna Ridge Elementary School that is in the southern portion of our district in the city of Elk Grove. They would be our 41st and our 42nd elementary schools. The first region is the Sunrise region. I'll just point you in the direction of build out. In the 15-16 year, there was close to 1,300 students in that region. At build out, there will be over 7,600 students in that region, equating to 8 future elementary schools, 2 middle schools, and 2 high schools. The Southwest region, again in the 15-16 school year, about 4,500 K-6 students, I should say. And at build out, over 8,500 students, equating in 6 future elementary schools in that region. I did highlight the Arlene Hine attendance area, which is an area of tremendous growth right now, and the attendance area that will be most affected by Laguna Ridge. This is just to note the number of community and staff committee meetings that were held. Both myself and Ms. Cherry hosted those meetings. They are also attended by members of my staff, as well as members of Ms. Cherry's staff, principals, staff, and community members in all those affected regions. In terms of boundary criteria, they speak for themselves. I don't need to go back through them with you this evening. The point being, when we establish boundaries, we like to stick to a particular criterion as opposed to dealing with emotional issues and individual issues when it comes to parents and students, because it is about the region and the district in its entirety. So Anatolia II Elementary School, as you well know, began construction in May of 2016. We are gearing up for a 2017-18 opening, located at the corner of Apollon Drive and Sophistry Drive, adjacent to the already developed Sandpiper Park. And then, as I mentioned earlier, it is currently located in the Sunrise Elementary School attendance area, which is projected to exceed the capacity of Sunrise Elementary School. And we said during the 17-18, but I would tell you that it has already exceeded the multi-track year-round capacity of Sunrise as I stand here before you today. And as I noted earlier, there's extensive development happening in the region. So we wanted to highlight with you kind of a 30,000-foot literally view of the new elementary school there. You can see it highlighted in yellow. Sunrise Elementary School being just to the north of that proposed school. And then just getting a little closer to the school site, you can see Apollon Drive, Sophistry Drive, and then the adjacent Sandpiper Park. And then this is the existing boundary for the Sunrise Elementary School attendance area. When we reached out to both the staffs and the community of the Sunrise attendance area, 2 alternative boundary plans were presented as alternatives and options. Alternative A was really the only alternative that made a lot of sense with regard to the development and where the students were going to be located, and as a result, overwhelmingly was the preferred option, and it's the boundary that I presented on August 16th and then here for you tonight. So the Sunrise Elementary School boundary would be that yellowish mustard color before you, with the new Anatolia II Elementary School being the green tone. So the new Anatolia II Elementary School would be just south of Crescenti Road, would be the dividing line. It would follow south along the Rancho Cordova Parkway, and then when it intersects Kiefer Boulevard, it would extend to the east to the termination of Grant Line Road, and then south of Kiefer Boulevard. These were the capacity versus recently projected numbers in the region, just to show you the need for the school. Again, part of our criterion is balanced enrollment over time, and we want boundaries that make sense as additional schools are built. And this was a slide that we used to show you upon build out a nice balance throughout the region. Most schools hovering around 800 to 850 students, some schools at 900, but no more than 900 upon build out of the region. I did want to share with the board, this was I think the one question that we talked about with regard to the new school possibly opening on a multi-track year-round calendar. So I wanted to provide a visual for the board if I could. These bars represent projected future enrollment in the region. That's TK6 enrollment. I will tell you these are high watermark numbers, so this is should development continue, in fact increase at the current rate, which we're experiencing now. These are a little more aggressive in the way of projections. But because of our sensitivity to impacts to parents and families, we wanted to take a look at what things could happen should we experience tremendous growth in the region. So the green hash line represents the combined traditional capacity of both Sunrise Elementary School and Anatolia 2. The dark black line represents the combined multi-track year-round capacity. So if both schools were to operate on a traditional calendar, we would see that in the 2018 school year, should these numbers be realized, we would already be in a position to be talking to you about one of them converting to a multi-track year-round. Even with that said, one school being multi-track year-round and the other school, say, being traditional, there would be a capacity in the region, depending on which one was year-round and which one was traditional, of about 2,200 students. And so you would see, I believe that it's in the 2020 school year, we would need to be, have to see both schools on a multi-track year-round calendar in order to house all the students, absent another school being constructed. And so when we talk to you, to lessen the impact on parents in terms of already dividing a school in half, if you will, sending those students to an additional school, one of the alternative perks to both schools being year-round would also be not needing to change parents' calendars. And so that's an issue that Ms. Cherry and I are going to continue to look at, and that our recommendation will most likely be that both schools are on a multi-track year-round calendar. You'll see at Laguna Ridge, the proposal that we have for you, frankly, really doesn't give you that option in the first couple of years. In this case, what we're suggesting is we would hate to make a change now just to see another change in a couple years. So moving on to Laguna Ridge Elementary School, again, similar to Anatolia, began construction early this summer in 2016, set for completion in the fall of 17-18, located at the corner of Denali Circle and Elston, again adjacent to a park. Oops. Located entirely within the existing Arlene Hine attendance area. And again, just by looking at the numbers, Arlene Hine is already well over capacity and we're offloading students, so it's somewhat a rhetorical question to ask in terms of need. Again, 30,000 foot level. You can see the new proposed elementary school here, just immediately west of Elizabeth Pinkerton and Cosumnes Oaks High School. Already developed area. And then getting a little closer, this is a little older aerial because all that adjacent development is now complete. Existing elementary school attendance areas, Arlene Hine in the yellow, Helen Carr Costello in the green, Franklin Elementary School in the purple, and Carroll in the yellow. So again, similarly to Anatolia, two alternative boundary plans were presented to both the Franklin Elementary School attendance area community and the Arlene Hine Elementary School attendance area, as well as to their staffs. After considering all the input and looking at all the factors, alternative B was actually the alternative that we are recommending here to you tonight, and what we felt to be kind of the consensus, if you will, with the staffs and the community, given all the circumstances before us. Quickly, I can share with you the rationale why. This is in the 17-18 school year. The effect of the new elementary school, Laguna Ridge North, being the brown attendance area, would be carving off a significant amount of Arlene Hine's attendance area. In fact, it's all that area east of Bruceville, extending to the east to Highway 99 along Whitelock Parkway, but also absorbing an area south of Whitelock Parkway to Camera Road, which is currently Franklin Elementary School's attendance area. The immediate proximity of those homes south of Whitelock Parkway, they're all new homes. They all frankly anticipated going to a new school. They have a fairly large commute to Franklin Elementary School each morning and afternoon, having to cross Franklin, and it's a traffic situation to say the least in that region. But it also has an effect on Franklin Elementary School, driving down its residing population, which when you look at a school without a whole lot available in terms of facility resources, driving that down by a few hundred students is a good thing. And they're still very large at over 1,100 students, even with this proposal. So it helps us with the situation at Franklin, and it also allows those families south of Whitelock Parkway to attend a new school adjacent to where they live. And again, these were just the numbers justifying the new school and the new boundary relative to capacity. I do want to pause for a minute, though, and have everyone take a close look at Franklin Elementary School in the middle of your screen. You can see over time, if we were to build the new school at East Franklin, Franklin Elementary School gets quite small, and if we were to not build it, Franklin Elementary School remains and continues to be quite large. East Franklin Elementary School is a decision that the board will have to make post-November 8th relative to our own local bond and our own state bond. We've had some pretty courageous conversations with the staff and the community on that issue, and so I look forward to continuing that when the bond passes, and then we can have a conversation with that community. So that's something that we will revisit. Again, similarly, we looked at build-out, and with this proposed boundary being absorbed by Laguna Ridge South and actually SEPA North students, nice balance in the region someday. Some couple schools are still quite large at 1,000 students, but those are things we'll have to look at closely. I would again draw your eye to Franklin Elementary School upon build out at 250 students, quite small. So something we need to continue to work at. So this is the timeline. You can see again the community meetings being held from the end of May to the beginning of June. Staff meetings along that same timeline. We did present this to the board in a very draft stage on May 3rd. Again in August 16th based on feedback from the community. Again tonight before you September 6th per plan for approval, and Ms. Cherry and I can immediately start communicating this, out to affected families and staff members. And with that, be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Pierce. Any additional questions for Mr. Pierce that weren't addressed at our August 16th meeting? Mr. Forcina?
Yeah, just one quick one.
Sure.
We've talked before what an admirable job has been done with respect to the community meetings and the public outreach and so on and so forth. We've had our public meetings here. We've had our board meetings where people had a chance to talk.
Sure.
Since you presented all this information last time, have you had any calls, any interest, any letters, anything with respect?
Superintendent Hoffman got an email today from Ms. Cherry and myself as well. Very basic questions just about what could happen and when and how the students will be affected. Very straightforward questions though with regard to how it'll impact their student. I would not say it was argumentative or challenging in any way, shape, or form. I have not received any, I don't know if some similar lines or yeah, I would say the only, and I don't even want to say contentious, the only issue of any concern, and I hate to even use that word, has been how it'll affect my track assignment,
Yeah.
whether or not I'll get to keep, well, AM kindergarten's not an issue because those students are already enrolled, but it's really how will this affect my placement based on where I'm at in my existing school, and then grandfathering. So 5th and 6th grade students, will they be able to remain at their existing school to see it through? And that's something that Ms. Cherry and I can work on administratively with those folks.
Well, I just want to thank you again. I'm just going to say it again. This entire project's met all the principles that we believe in: transparency, accountability, and inclusion. You couldn't have done the job any different than you've done it, and really appreciate it.
I appreciate Ms. Cherry's support in that. It's not always the easiest thing to go out and spend all these evenings, but you can see tonight that it's critical that you do so.
Yes.
Slide 26, you have those almost 1, 2, 3, 4 elementary schools. What's the projected dates of those? Do you have any forecasts on those particular elementary schools?
The only information I can rely on with regard to this is in the master plan, and we don't have a date because the pace at which development's going to occur is going to dictate that. What I can say is what we've been planning on is 10 to 12 new schools, 8 to 10 of those being elementary in the next decade. We know that the majority of them are going to land in the city of Elk Grove in this region and also in the city of Rancho Cordova. We don't think the economy is going to sustain any more of those than that, I should say. So I can't tell you if 3 of them will be here and 5 of them will be in Rancho Cordova, but we know where they are. The good news is they're mapped, they're identified, and we're ready to move on those as soon as the logistics happen. So not the easiest answer with what we have in front of us today, but what I can say is we watch it very, very closely. We have quarterly what we call big picture meetings. We're tracking the development as it's happening. They have to come in, part of their building permit process is contacting us first.
What I was wondering is, projects of the mall in that geographical area, how would that affect it?
Well,
That would
It's not a mall.
accelerate it, or?
we definitely believe that, well, the mall's an indicator.
The mall area.
The mall area, thank you,
Yeah,
is an
or-
indicator, so I don't believe it develops until more homes come, but I think that it will also spur home development at the same time. People do want to live by those amenities typically, so we think the two will go hand in hand.
Any other questions from colleagues?
Madam,
All right.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Ms. Shidas Espinosa.
I don't believe I caught the answer to that question that you received about track changes. So if a student is moving from an elementary school to a new elementary school and they're not a 5th or 6th grader who could be grandfathered in, do they receive some sort of preference? Do we make any effort to keep them in the same track if that's their preference?
I'll let Ms. Cherry field that one.
Good evening, everyone. We generally look at their original date and time of registration, so not just the registration and the move to the new school, but when they originally registered in the Elk Grove Unified School District at their current school.
Okay. So they would receive, I guess, that's their order of priority in having that selection?
That's how we've done it in the past. We have talked about a random selection process instead of date and time of registration, but currently that's what we use.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, I will thank you both for your fabulous work. Not getting emails and calls regarding boundary changes is usually the indicator that you've done an excellent job, at least from our end of things, so thank you. At this time, I will call for a motion to adopt the revised elementary school boundaries as a result of 2 new elementary schools scheduled to open for the 2017-2018 school year. Motion to approve from Mr. Perez. Okay, everyone. Second from Mr. Fortuna. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. All right, any board members wanting to submit a report? Mr. Fortuna has one, and Ms. Shidas Espinosa.
I'll speak for both of us. You could speak for both of us.
Go ahead. I got another one.
Yeah, last week, Chet and I met with Chris and Donna and Tina as a subcommittee, looking at alternatives to our current community outreach. And we've gotten some proposals, and those will be coming forward soon.
Anything you want to add to that, Mr. Madison?
No, the only thing I just want to add is that I continue to meet with the Elk Grove Community Scholarship Foundation. We've got subcommittees going on, and we're working hard, looking forward to this coming school year.
Thank you. And then Ms. Shidas Espinosa? Okay.
The 2x2 with the Community Services District also met, I think that was last week.
Correct.
Time flies. And one of the things we really talked about a lot was the school facilities master plan and our rationale for approving the bond. And, our colleagues on the CSD board really understood the need, given that we partner on so many issues and serve the same population, and they were incredibly supportive. And they indicated that they will be using their resources to help educate the population about about what the bond would do if approved.
Right, the education part.
I just want to
Ms.
say,
Albiani.
Chet and I are meeting tomorrow on the board handbook that had been put
Oh,
on stall
wonderful.
for a
Thank
while
you.
as my life got a little crazy this summer, and so we're back on page for that. So we have a meeting set tomorrow, and we'll bring more to you next time.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And then, Mr. Hoffman, do you have anything you want to report? All right. We did not have anything removed from the consent agenda. However, before you all pack up, I do have something that I would like to add, other items from the floor, and it lends itself very well to our Constitution Day. I did receive a resolution and a letter from the Secretary of State, and then also a letter from our State Superintendent of Education, Mr. Torlakson, as well as Mr. Padilla, as it relates to California High School Voter Education Weeks. So I'd like to, and I do know that there's a group that has been in regular communications with our communication department as it relates to voter registration project. They call themselves the Nonpartisan Voter Registration Coalition, which includes the League of Women Voters, LULAC, United Latinos, and several others to help in our efforts. But the resolution Basically, it's relative to recognizing California High School Voter Education Weeks. And there are 3 board members that were interested in having this agendized because the timing of the Education Week is the next board meeting, September 19th through the 30th. And then specifically, I would like to read a paragraph from our Superintendent and Secretary of State on the importance of this effort. And I'll just read the paragraph versus the 2-page letter. And it says, as we approach the presidential election in November, it is important to ensure that our students are learning to become active and engaged participants in our democracy. That is why we strongly encourage your schools to participate in high school voter education weeks on September 19th through the 30th. Let's get our students on the path of a lifetime of civic engagement and voting. So powerful words here with a letter, and there's a draft resolution that we submit to our colleagues so that we can have this hopefully for our next agenda item for consideration. And then I'd be happy to work with Ms. Pinkerton on any additional support that you might need. I'll send you an electronic copy, but I will go ahead and provide this to our superintendent since it's hot off the press. I'm actually just getting it this morning. Otherwise, I would have shared it earlier. But it was dated September the 1st and sent to all of the school districts and superintendents. So it is very important, I'm sure to all of us, of the importance of voter education, getting our students registered, not only for this election, but for a lifetime of civic engagement. So looking forward to having that come up. Any other? Yes, Mr. Fortuna.
Yeah, one quick note of congratulations to this entire district. We take student safety important in a lot of areas, but certainly one thing we talked about over the last couple of years was the issue of concussions. And we ensure now that prior to any student playing a sport that they've had their physical, which includes baseline data that can be used in the event that the child has a concussion. Last Thursday night, my grandson was starting quarterback for Pleasant Grove High School playing against CO, and he took a huge illegal hit to the head. Referees didn't call it. And he got up and he was fine. He appeared fine. And I don't know if it was either the coach or the trainer, they pulled him off the field, they sat him down, and he had to go through the entire concussion protocol. And I was so pleased to see that our staff and our trainers were just really on top of it. And I talked to the coach afterwards, and the training that's been provided and the instructions been provided is such that it's not a question of if they're in doubt, they will test a kid. They will test a kid, period. And that's just pleasing to know that that's in place because certainly if it's there for freshman football, I have a fairly good feeling that it's going to be there across the board. So that was absolutely super.
Thank you, Mr. Fortuna. And I would like to adjourn tonight in the memory of Ms. Kathy O'Neill. She was a former special education educator from our district, as well as a founding board member of the Elk Grove Food Bank and the founder of the Clothes Closet. In fact, she ran it the entire time, and she provided a lot of clothes to our students over the many years, and unfortunately, she passed away last week. So I would like to adjourn in her memory. Thank you.